So the reason why I tuned to 417 in the last video I made was because 444 is higher than it's supposed to be, you know, at least as far as I'm aware, because these are, these strings I guess were made in America, or I bought them in America. We tuned to 440 in America, so I didn't use 444 because I didn't want to over tighten the strings too much, and I was worried about that. I can't tell, I need to replace these strings, so I can't tell if there's more wear and tear on them because of over tightening them, but I don't do it very often because of that. I want to minimize the amount of time I do it as much as possible. So that's why I tuned to 417, because obviously that's a lower number, so I was thinking it's not going to cause as much pressure on the A string if I tune it lower than it's supposed to be. So that's what I'm about to do right now. So since I'm the only one that I know of that plays violin that does this, I didn't have anyone to ask for guidance, so I just used my best judgment. But that was one reason. I didn't want to over tighten my strings and have to replace them more often or risk one of them breaking in the middle of a performance or a lesson. And then the other reason is because I recently read a book by Michael Tyrrell called The Sound of Healing, and he talks about his research and his discoveries about the different solfege frequencies. And he also talks about, I hope I'm saying this right, I don't have the book with me, but I think his name is Masaru Emoto, and I think the name of his book is The Hidden Messages in Water. So what Mr. Emoto did was he had a very powerful microscope, and he would say words to the droplets of water, and then he would freeze them and then put the frozen droplets of water under the microscope, and he would test it to see if the things that we say affect water and our environment around us. And so when he would say things like love, beauty, gratitude, each droplet of water, when it was frozen, it would make a different snowflake, and a unique snowflake. And then when he would say things like evil or hate or anger or just mean things, and then freeze the water droplets and then look at those under the microscope, it would just be, it wouldn't be a snowflake anymore. It would just be like, it would look like an exploded snowflake is the best way I know how to describe it. But there are pictures of it. I've seen the pictures. It's really interesting. It also reminded me of an experiment that I'm going to do with my children, called the jars of rice experiment, where you get two identical jars of rice and you say kind things to one jar, and then you say, if you're angry, you say mean, hurtful things to the other jar, and you give it a certain amount of time, and then you make observations about if what we say affects the rice in the jars. And so according to other people's experiments, the jar of rice where you said kind things stayed fresher longer, and the jar of rice that you said the unkind things to, it would rot faster. And so it's something I've read about it about 3 or 4 years ago, and I've really been wanting to do it with my girls, but I haven't had a chance to yet. So that's something I'm gonna do. I might make a video about that too. But when I read about I don't know if he's a doctor, but Mr. Emoto's work, it reminded me of those jars of rice, and so I was really fascinated. I saw the connection between what we're saying and how it affects the rice and how it affects the snowflakes. So I just wanted to read an excerpt from the Michael Tyrrell book about the different frequencies and the studies that have been done on them and how they affect our bodies. This page in the book is called 417, which is what my violin is tuned to right now. And it says 417 hertz, And Michael came up with a name for each Hertz in his book, and his name for it was Desert Sojourn. I think some people call it the frequency of cleansing. So what Michael says is, due to our frenzied schedules and overworking, we often find ourselves stuck in negative cycles. We procrastinate at home, we self-medicate with drugs or alcohol, we eat junk food on the run, or in other words, we keep bad habits. So this frequency, 417, can help break these negative cycles as well as sluggishness and lethargy. On a physiological